We are live
That.
with the beautiful Caity Reilly. Caity is a somatic sex and intimacy coach, embodiment educator, and tantric practitioner, dedicating to supporting others on the journey of radical embodiment, sensual awakening, and coming home to the heart. She is passionate about supporting others to heal and alchemize trauma and shame in order to birth a new paradigm of integrative and holistic sexuality and relating. So yeah, Caity is a fellow Dakini. We've both been seeing many clients over the years, helping people to get out of their heads and into their bodies. And today we really want to talk about the nervous system. And we were just saying, like, this isn't super sexy. Like, it doesn't sound very sexy, the nervous system. But actually, the nervous system is really, really sexy, especially if it's a relaxed nervous system.
Exactly.
So, Caity, tell us about the nervous system and why this is so important for intimacy, connection, and sensuality.
Yeah. So when I tune, kind of how my work goes is that I work with a lot of people with sexual trauma. But what I notice overall is even for my clients who are coming in to kind of do personal growth work or to expand their pleasure range, that working with the nervous system is like this magical key to really dropping out of whether it's shame or anxiety or even depression and all these different kind of aspects that get in the way of our sexuality. And it's just this awesome kind of tool and vehicle that we can use, because the reality is that when we are having sex with ourselves or others, our nervous system is going through all these different states and experiences. And what I found is like people who come in with low arousal or kind of challenges with being more orgasmic or feeling sensation and pleasure, it's not that there's something broken and wrong. It's like we can work with this really big aspect of our human selves to open up access to all these other realms of our sexuality. So, kind of is this like the nervous system is what makes us human. And it tends to be this really amazing key for dropping into these deeper states of pleasure.
Okay, so what is the nervous system and how would you define it and how does that make us human?
Yeah, so basically, the nervous system is really complex. It runs throughout our whole body and it really touches all aspects of our beings. There's one part of the nervous system in particular that I work with called the vagus nerve, which is the 10th longest cranial nerve in the body. Basically, what it means is it's a really complex, really huge nerve that runs from the back of your head through your face, touches your heart, touches your lungs, touches your digestive system, and it actually ends right in basically the inside of your perineum. So it travels through the whole kind of crown to root, if we're going to kind of look at the body and the kind of chakra system. And what this nerve does is it is either scanning for cues of safety, meaning we feel safe enough to get into connection with others, or cues of danger, where we disconnect from ourselves and disconnect from other people. And all of this is going on. It's like computer software running in the background that most of us aren't aware of. And basically, this software, this nerve, puts a lens on. It's like puts on a pair of glasses, and it's our filter for how we see the world and we see our encounters with other people. So when we bring awareness, like, oh, I have this program running, and right now it's telling me I'm unsafe here, or I'm feeling really connected and really safe here. When we can bring awareness, we can kind of move ourselves between the two states and really focus on connection, which is where we want to be hanging out when it comes to sex.
Oh my God, I'm just so digging the way that you're explaining this. It's so powerful.
Same.
Okay, so tell me, if you have someone coming in and they are in a very unsafe place, and that of course starts within ourselves.
Yeah.
And then that belief system then guides us in with the rest of the world. So if someone's coming in with a really
Yeah, you're embodying it, the big eyes and the freeze. Yeah. Yeah.
uh-huh.
So this is really common for people to come in this way, either with kind of like high anxiety, or I love how you just like did the body mudra of it. The eyes are big and we're tensed up and we're kind of in that freeze, right? We're ready to run away or to fight, or we're actually feeling really stuck and trapped. So if somebody's coming in one of these essentially states of nervous system activation, the first thing that I do with people is just bring awareness to it. And for somebody who's not versed in necessarily like the language of the nervous system, I might just ask them a really simple question like, hey, what do you notice going on in your body right now? Is there a sensation, or is there a lack of sensation? Can you not really feel your body? And a lot of times the place that I start is inviting people into mindfulness. And if people aren't ready for mindfulness, because meditation and all that can be really activating, it's just like simply locating the body and sensation. And there's tons of tools and practices. So you have people name just like, oh, I notice I feel really tense in my shoulders. I think almost everybody who comes into my practice says like, I feel tense in my shoulders, right? Like anybody who's coming.
I feel a little tense in my shoulders.
yeah, and it's right. We're on screens, and our nervous system starts to tense up, and our whole body kind of essentially reacts to what our nervous system is saying. So our muscles and our digestive system, and all of this starts to basically believe the story that the nervous system's telling. So we want to disrupt that story by bringing people into awareness of something other than just tension.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the first thing is to just notice I do have some tension there. And then how can we go about once we notice that? And so also I just want to speak to some people are unaware of their tension.
Oh yeah.
And other people are obsessed over their tension.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So that's actually like it's the loving presence.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, because also presence can be that like overly obsession about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to make a story about it either way, right? Because when we're in story, we're up in the realm of the mind. And there is a point in our trauma healing journey and our embodiment journey where kind of rewriting our stories is important. But I would say for 99% of people to start, actually just being with the experience we're having, whether it's tension, whether it's like, oh, I wasn't even aware I was tense. Just learning how to stay with the body is super important before we make it mean anything. Because the body is like this, it's this animal, it's this creature. And it's the brain that creates story. And so when we can just give the kind of animal of our body space, it knows how to unwind without being like, oh yeah, I'm tense in my shoulders because when I was, 5 years old, I had to tense up because I took a really bad fall or my parent hit me. It's just like, oh, I'm just tense and I just need to complete the movement. And I need to have space to just feel this part of me.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's so different. And I know that's something that you hold space for in your work too, right? When we do hands-on work, it's just allowing the body to unfold.
Through and really getting, so the key is getting people out of their heads, which most of us all of us live to one degree or another, a little too much in the head. But many of us are practicing becoming embodied, which is that we're just really living through the wisdom of our body temple. So what are some ways that you like to bring people out of their head and into their body? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the first place to start is creating a sense of safety, because we actually can't drop into our bodies unless we feel safe enough to be in that level of vulnerability and connection with ourselves and whatever emotions might arise, and also with the person in front of us who's holding the space or a partner. So if people are really kind of in that, like, people are animals when they walk in the door, right? Like, have you ever like met someone, you're like, oh, this person's kind of like a big cat, or this person's like a flighty little bird, or this person's like a shy shy little dog. So if somebody's coming in and they're really kind of like checking the space out and they're kind of unable to make eye contact with me, I'll start them with an exercise called orienting, which is actually where you allow the person to scan the entire room, really slowly looking up and down and noticing textures and light, and kind of basically this allows that animal part of the brain to scan the space, to track. And then usually after people do that, they're like, oh, I'm safe. There's not a tiger in the corner. There's something like it's going to jump out and I can be here. And so, you know, once that's established, then we can start to get into all the embodiment work.
Beautiful. And I think that such a key is just holding the safe space, which you do on such a deep level. And I, you know, I have clients who are just so not in this world at all. But just by coming in the room and just me being totally myself, people can relax, and they don't even know why they're able to relax, but it's just that they're in an energy of safety. So all these words don't even matter, but I can just feel, and I can see them for who they are. So that's a lot of also with the intimacy, because now I want to, you know, talk about how this relates to our relationships and our sexuality.
Absolutely.
And how we can hold space for each other by being that safe space.
Yeah, that's really, you know, I love how you summed that up, because that's an experience a lot of my clients have. They're like, I walk in the room or I sit down with you or I get on a call and I just like feel myself start to drop in and relax. And I don't do this in other places. And it's like, you know, yes, you and I are magical beings. And on just a like nervous system level, what we're doing is anchoring in ourselves. So like having that capacity to be with myself and to allow my emotions, my energy to happen, but to not leave or make a story. And so when you can sit in that place of I'm safe with me and I'm safe sharing space with you, and I trust whatever arises, you know, 70% of our communication as humans is nonverbal. It's all felt, right? Like this person has good vibes, this person has bad vibes. I feel good here, I feel bad. And so that's what's actually going on when people walk in the room. And we can do that with our partners as well as our clients. We can do it with our friends and our family and lovers, and really develop that capacity to sit in that seat and be that.
So what about when we have two people whose nervous systems are off, coming together in a relationship, which is like a lot of people on the planet.
Yeah, especially right now too, with everything going on. Yeah, so the first thing I would recommend, like if you and your partner are coming together and it's just feeling off, is to actually not make it about them. And to like take responsibility and be like, I'm feeling off right now. I'm feeling tense. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling triggered. And see like, what do I need to do to take care of me, instead of making it a problem and saying that it's your fault. Because once we start doing that, we get into an even deeper nervous system game, which pulls us further away from our partner.
Yes.
So, yeah, right. We've all done it. Like, you're making me feel this way. No, actually, I'm having an experience that's arising. And yes, there may be something in your being that's kind of triggering it, but it's actually my experience and story playing out that probably has little to nothing to do with you in this moment. So, so I would say for couples or any partners coming together is like to notice where you are and have it be kind of to own your experience. And then from there, see like, what do I need to do? What makes me feel good? Is it movement? Is it getting in the bath? Is it some self-massage? Is it going and taking a walk and actually, you know, leaving the space and coming back together? Can I kind of get myself regulated and grounded and then meet my partner? And if that's not possible, something that really quickly also changes our state is being vulnerable and honest about the experience we're having. And instead of saying like, you know, you're doing something wrong and now I'm feeling really tense, just like saying like, I'm feeling tension right now. and like tracking it on a body, like a body level, like I'm feeling anxious and it's making my belly tight and it's making my heart feel kind of tight. And I notice that I want to close down to you. And actually being really honest, which is a huge aphrodisiac when we can have our honesty received by our partner, and to not have them take it personally, but just to say like, wow, thanks for sharing your experience.
Yes.
Because it actually allows us to start being who we are.
And vulnerability opens the heart.
Totally.
So as soon as you're defensive and in blame in any way,
yeah,
which I mean, it's a long journey for some of us to get out of the blame story in the very subtle ways. Even we know about compassionate communication, that there can still be these very subtle ways that we still, so it's a big practice.
It's a forever practice.
Really a forever practice to really learn how to be truly responsible for ourselves, and then truly able to communicate that in a way that opens the heart and creates intimacy and connection, and from that place of self-sourcing in the body.
Yeah, I think for most of us, we don't want to be vulnerable because some part of us is making whatever experience we're having wrong. Like on some level, even if I'm blaming my partner for, making me really tense, if I go a layer deeper, there's actually a part of me that is beating myself up. Like, why do I feel tense when I'm coming to have sex with my partner? And if I go under that, it's probably like, oh, I'm really scared here. Like, oh, does this mean something about me or the relationship? And then if we go under that, there's just the raw experience of the emotions. And it takes so much courage to do that. But going in each layer makes us more and more available for our experience, which ultimately leads to way better sex.
Oh, tell us more about that. How does this create better sex?
Yeah. So, sex is a nervous system activity. And I know you and I are both like geeks about sexuality and the chakras. So, like, we can approach sex from lots of different flavors of energy. Like, if we look at the chakra system, and we can also approach sex through our nervous system in a bunch of different ways. So, for people who like really like kinky sex, who are really into like there being an element of like surprise or pain or pleasure, they like a little bit of nervous system charge. They actually want to feel a little bit of the sympathetic energy. So there needs to be a little bit of that activation in the system. For people who want really slow lovemaking, like very sensual or very loving and connected, they want a bit of that down-regulated parasympathetic state where they can really go and feel the connection between themselves and another person. And for all of us, having really good sex means being in a place of regulation, which just nervous system geek that I am, means that we're hanging out in a state called ventral in our nervous system. And this is basically the place of the heart, like if you're going to give it kind of an energetic name. And when we're in this place of the heart, when we're in ventral, we are connected to ourselves and we're able to feel the other person's experience. And we're feeling the signs of safety. Because to be connected to my heart, I have to feel safe. And when we have that experience of internal safety, we're actually able to let go into deeper layers of sensation. We can feel more in our sensory body. We access deeper states of physical arousal because the body's relaxed. So the blood can flow to the genitals, the blood can flow throughout the skin. And we also tend to be out of the thinking mind, the discursive mind and thoughts running, and into more of a felt experience with another person. And there's a whole bunch of other things that happen too, but basically like when we're in safety, when we're in connection, when we're in the heart, we're able to open up to a deeper experience of more sensation, pleasure, connection, and love. And to experience orgasm or climax, we need to be able to really let go, which means we have to feel really safe. So, yeah.
Okay, so I feel my devil's advocate coming in here, my
Yeah,
little
go for it.
question here.
Yeah.
Why is it that some people actually thrive on unsafety and
Yeah.
actually feel that sort of hot chemistry with people who aren't safe,
Oh,
and then
totally.
the relationship with the safe guy, they lose their turn on an orgasm? What
Yeah.
is that about?
Oh, it's such a fascinating thing. I love this because this is what I work with people, especially women in my practice with. So
It's a big one for women.
it's a big one, and it's all like sex is all a nervous system game. And the thing is the hardwiring that we have around arousal and turn on comes very early on in our life and has a lot to do with our attachment, which I know you're going to have a great talk with Trevor about. So he'll like dive into it even more. So our arousal, what we find to be erotic and hot, is based off of our early relationships and our earliest experiences of our bodies and how our caretakers and how kind of culturally and socially we were met. For a lot of us, we were met with shame and disapproval. And oftentimes, a relationship with our caregivers, it's a little bit of a mismatch, right? Like, we really want our space. We have a caregiver that's really intense. We want more attention. We have a caregiver that's really back. And what happens is our nervous system starts to say, like, oh, this is love, this is connection. And then as we grow up and our arousal kicks on, we take all of those early relationships and stories and we essentially add like erotic energy to them, and then we get into the mess of trying to date as adults and have really hot sex. And so every person has essentially is hardwired for different input to peak arousal in their body. So like in anxious avoidant attachment, right? Like kind of liking the really cool bad guy, but we're like very anxious as a, and we want more connection and more conversation. But yeah, when we come together, the sex is really hot. Super normal experience, and it's not very sexy, but it has to do, yeah, it's super hot and it's totally not sustainable for a relationship usually. And
Or not a healthy one anyways.
yeah, not one that if we want like long-term partnership and the experience of being met, it's not going to work out. And unfortunately it has to do with our early experiences of attachment and arousal. So the thing that kind of like gets us out of those patterns is doing some deep inner work around our early attachment experiences, which I highly recommend things like Hakomi therapy or somatic experiencing to work for. And just knowing that we carry that into our relationships. This is a story I share pretty openly, but when I met my partner, Matt, there was this deep knowing in my heart, but my
I just want to say Matt Sturm was on here the other day, and many people loved his. So this is his partner, Caity.
Hi, yeah, we teach together, and our partners. And when I met him, it was like my heart knew and was such a clear yes, but my nervous system like could not figure him out because he felt so different than any partner I had previously. And it took a little bit of time, and at the time I was doing a lot of nervous system work, so it was like perfect. It took time for me to experience my arousal and sexuality with him in a way that felt like really hot and exciting. Like it was actually a practice. And at the time when we met, I was actually celibate too. So I really was like working with all of this stuff and going through a deep process of understanding like, just because I have really hot sex over here doesn't mean that that person's actually going to work as my partner. And so I was in a deep pause and a reorientation. And what I learned through that process was what it's like to come into a relationship on a spiritual level, on a heart level, and then to have the sexuality be there versus starting a relationship in really hot sex, confusing lust with love, and then not really being met on those deeper levels of my being. So I started to look at and approach relationship different before I met Matt and in the early stages of us dating. And it really helped me understand how to support my clients a bit better and be like, hey, the person who might be a really good partner for you may not feel at times like the person you're going to have the hottest sex with, because you're undoing hardwiring, and you actually have to create new ways and new stories around sexuality and arousal to be with partners who are actually healthier, more sustainable, whatever it is.
That is so beautiful and really, 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 it's so powerful for you to share that story,
Well, thank you.
because yeah, you know, they say looking for the person you're going to have the hottest sex with.
Yeah.
The hottest sex often equals childhood wounds.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because the sex is like
Yeah,
childhood
absolutely.
wounds.
Yeah, all those tension, all those hormones. And it's not to say you can't have really hot sex in a long-term relationship. It just is like, hey, it's not going to immediately feel like, those early childhood neural pathways that like zing you immediately. And the amazing thing is that you get to create new patterns around arousal and play and connection and trying on different flavors and, what it means to have sustainable sex over here.
I love that. So
Yeah.
powerful, Caity. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to share about how we can, in this moment, in this time of crazy, when there's like serious, everyone stuff's up, and
Everyone.
we
Yeah.
also have the space. This is the best time to do inner work, like ever. That's why I'm so happy to be leading this summit right now, because this is such a brilliant time for people. It's like all your shit's up, and there's tons of space to deal with it.
Yeah.
So can you just give our viewers just a little something for them to walk away with that could really start out this process?
I love that you named that, because we all are having this really profound personal experience of being forced to slow down in some ways. And so a lot of our stuff is arising. And then collectively, we're in a really intense experience too, right? Where we can't run away from this thing, we can't fight this thing, but we actually have to sit and stay. And we have a choice to either leave ourselves and numb out, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a survival strategy, or we have the opportunity to stay with ourselves and to show up and feel and to really do a lot of rapid healing and transformation. And so, what I kind of like to offer people right now is, one, recognizing you're in a really intense experience, and two, that you have the opportunity to take advantage of it. And a practice I'm loving sharing with people is to introduce them to a practice called body scanning or body dialogue. So you can lie down, you can sit, you can even be standing and moving. And basically, it's like you just notice your body from head to toe and you go really slowly. And the first time you do the body scan from head to toe, you just find one sensation to be curious about. So, not like pain or tension, but just something you're like, oh, that's interesting. I feel some tingling in my left shoulder. And you stay with it for 3 to 5 breaths without making meaning of it. Oftentimes, I have people place their hand there and just see what happens when I hang out with a sensation. And then you shake it off and you kind of like come back in and you body scan again. And then this time you find something that feels really good in the body. And good can be really big and orgasmic and yummy, but it can also just be like simple, like, oh, like my heart feels really warm. And you stay there for 3 to 5 breaths. And you just notice what happens when you just hang out with sensation. And it sounds really simple, but it's actually a huge practice, because you're learning how to stay in your body and with your experience without making story or meaning. And you're teaching your body to focus on curiosity and pleasure, which are really powerful antidotes to pain and tension and trauma response. So it's actually like a big deal practice that takes like 5 minutes to do. So I'm loving teaching that to people right now.
I am so on board with that. You are clearly such an expert in the nervous system. Are there any books that you recommend around it? What is your favorite book?
I'm a huge nerd about neurobiology and the nervous system.
Mm.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of some like easy ones. I'll give you a couple, and like if people really want to geek out, they can message me. But anything by Peter Levine is
Okay.
phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
He he wrote a book called Waking the Tiger, which is great.
I think he's in our summit. I've
Really?
seen him liking posts. I don't know if it's the Peter Levine, but there's definitely a Peter Levine in the summit liking my posts.
I'm a huge fangirl. I will be so pumped if it's him. He's awesome. He's the founder of somatic experiencing, and he's one of the leading experts in trauma resolution and healing. And you don't have to have experienced trauma to do nervous system work. Nervous system work is beneficial for literally everybody. So I recommend anything by him. I also love, I actually have it right in front of me. This is really geeky, but you can check it out. It's the Somatic Psychotherapy Toolbook. It's by a woman named Manuela Reeds, and she's also a trauma expert. And it has like 100+ exercises that you can do with yourself or with other people. And gosh, anything on polyvagal theory. That's like a really big word, but it's all about working with the vagus nerve, which we talked about earlier. And that's really my jam and where I study. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
The vagus nerve. Also, I wanted to share a practice on the vagus nerve relaxing is belly to belly, where you have each other and looking into each other's eyes and breathing together is an incredible vagus nerve. It's like one of the happiest places for the vagus nerve.
Yeah, it's amazing practice. I love belly to belly because you're literally touching like
your
vagus nerve together, and you're experiencing connection, which is what the vagus nerve is looking for. And connection is so healing to our systems, whether it's feeling our own body or being safely with another person.
Beautiful. Caity, how can our viewers get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can check out my website. It's called serpentandrose.com. Matt Sturman, I also run a group in the Bay Area called Embodied Erotic, and you can go to embodiederotic.com. And you can add me on Facebook or follow Serpent and Rose on Instagram to kind of keep up with my work.
Beautiful. I loved this talk. I got a lot out of it. And I want to say, because we did say at the beginning, like, this is a less sexy one. And like, definitely the sexier ones sometimes get more like views. But I just want to say that regulating your nervous system these are the foundations.
It's the key to great sex.
So you can learn all the great sex techniques, but if we don't have the tools to just regulate our nervous system, deal with our core wounds and our core traumas, all of those like yummier techniques they're not going to go anywhere because it has to have a firm foundation.
Exactly. This is building the firm foundation. This is like making sure you have a really good bed or a really good surface to be like having amazing sex on top of. Like you need to make sure the bed's not going to break halfway through.
You need to build a queen's bed.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Caity. You're amazing. And I love you and Matt. Just a superpower couple.
Thank you so much, Shezza. And thanks for offering this at this time. It's just amazing the work that you're putting into the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, love. Sending you lots of love. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.